now you should be streaming.
How do I oh, it does.
It's automatic. So.
Receiving your content.
And it can.
I'm live?
Yep, and it can give you issues if you watch yourself on YouTube while you're streaming.
Yeah, I can see that there's a delay.
Yeah. There's going to be a little delay anyways.
When I stop, does this get archived automatically?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
How do I stop it when I'm done?
Go back to OBS and then hit stop. Stop streaming. Same button.
Okay. Yeah.
We're gonna keep streaming. Got any viewers?
Whoops. Let me see. Where?
There it is.
Okay, so I'm streaming. I'm gonna draw.
Okay.
Thank you for your help.
Do you need any ink?
Nope.
It's Inktober.
I know, I've got my inking tools. Thank you.
I mean, enough if you need it.
Nope, I'm good.
Got your Mountain Dew?
I got my Mountain Dew. Gonna get my tools out. Hello out there, if anybody hears me. There is a delay from when I'm talking and when it starts streaming of a few seconds, so just know that. And I will hopefully be able to archive this later. Is this, I think this is, okay, this is the camera for me, and this is the camera for my art. Now I just need to see, I don't see my stream showing up. Why don't I see my stream showing up?
Let me see if I can get it on my
Yeah. I just want to be able to answer my chat easily. That's good. I'm just trying to. No, I just want to share this link with people, and I'm trying to figure out where I get my link to share. Thanks for bearing with me, folks. I'm doing this for the first time, so just gonna take me a minute to figure some things out.
What's coming out of your phone?
Ah, there it is. There's my share. Mm-hmm. Okay, go back up to my chat. Go into Twitter. No.
Can you see the chat saying they're having technical issues?
No, everybody seems to be okay. Let me know, folks, if you're dealing with any lag, and I'll look into it. But I think everything's set up correctly here. Never done a live stream before. This is my first, so just setting up a few things. I see all of you, though. I see you. Oh, what's my stupid Twitter password?
Don't say it out loud.
I know. It's my fiance Chrissy. If you hear her in the background, she helped me set up this live stream. She's a technical genius and a better artist than me. It's true.
Oh, shit.
Is that it? Nope. Oh,
Should I bring your Surface up so you can log in like automatically?
maybe.
Wouldn't hurt, right?
Nothing hurts. All right. Where's my Twitter? I wish I could have music, but then they don't let you monetize things. So no music. Just me talking. And if you guys have questions, I will see it on the chat and I will answer to the best of my ability. Keep in mind that I may be looking at my artwork, so I may not catch your chat right away, but I will keep peeking so that I can see things. Thank you. Yeah.
Codes.
Appreciate that. I'm bringing up a picture of the Flash's costume as reference in the background just because I want to get it right, or at least close to right. Well, this is pretty straightforward.
Can you reach it if you need to adjust?
Yeah, I'm good.
Shall we be to it?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sort of an artist. The Ghost Dog. I do some freelance illustration, and that includes comic books sometimes. If you go to Barnes and Noble, or if you go to Amazon, etc., the latest comic book that I worked on is called Colonial Comics Volume 2. It came out in January, I want to say. So, good enough to get me a pro pass to the conventions. So, that's cool. Let's see here. I'm gonna just post. I'm gonna post the live stream link to the Facebook page for Comic Tropes, and I think that's about all I need to do, and then I'll start drawing some more. Yeah, cool. All right, so right off the bat, I'm already concerned that I've made this guy's head too. I may not have. Oh no, okay, I see what I was going for here. For a minute, I was worried that I didn't show enough of his neck, but I'm putting his shoulder kind of high because he's throwing that back. All right, what other questions are there? Ramita Jr. or Miller, which artist do you like more? I'm stuck in the middle. My brother wanted to know. That's from, looks like VV. Ramita Jr., no question. I'm a huge fan of John Ramita Jr. I think he's a tremendous artist, especially when he has time, because he can do like 2 comics a month or something. He's one of the fastest guys in the industry, but he if he only is doing like one, wow, extra impressive. What's Flash's comic cowl look like? Something like this. Am I a fan of Rick and Morty? I'm a huge fan of Rick and Morty. In fact, the the co-creator of that show, Justin Roiland, used to have a podcast called Grandma's Virginity Podcast. I was a big fan of it, and I would sometimes draw the episode art for it. So, yeah, if you ever look into some of the projects the guys on Rick and Morty did before they did Rick and Morty, you would see that I talked to those guys back in the day. What did I think of Marvel Legacy #1, Noel Martinez? Sorry, Noel, have not read it yet. I am actually quite curious about that. Obviously, there's a lot of debate over whether Marvel should be bringing back its characters or not. Its original versions, I should say. I'm not sure. It all depends on the execution. Need to be something other than just a speedster like Super Saber. I don't know who Super Saber is. Aaron Williams. I'm doing the Inktober challenge, and the prompt, the first word for day one was Swift. To me, that says Flash. I guess that's cliche, but I've never really tried to draw the Flash, so we'll see what I can come up with. Who is your favorite YouTuber related to comics? Asks Milos. Or Milos. I think it's Milos, right? I don't know. My favorite YouTuber related to comics. I don't watch a lot of comics related content on YouTube because I don't want to get overly influenced and rip off something that somebody else is already doing. But obviously, Godzilla Mendoza. I like that kid a lot. He's been fun to work with. We just got introduced on Twitter at some point, and so we've worked together a couple times. He sort of does comics related content, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm aware that there are channels like Comics Drake and Comic Book Girl 13, is it, or 19, something like that. There's a number at the end, and of course there's who does everyone always say? Linkara? I think I have that right. I'm aware that they exist. I intentionally do not watch their shows because I want to sort of be doing my own thing without getting overly influenced. So I don't have a lot of recommendations there. Godzilla Mendoza does some comics related content, and I really like the stuff that he does. But I don't know too many other than that. Appreciate these questions, guys. Thanks. It's gonna definitely help me get through my day here. Do do do. Did you like Inhumans episodes 1 and 2? Um, Not very much, really. I I literally just watched episode 1 on demand just before I set up this live stream. I was curious about it. It was okay, I guess. It wasn't very good. I mean, it could have been worse, is all I'm saying. But that's damning with faint praise, isn't it? I was not impressed at all. Um, I was quite disappointed, but not overly surprised because we've known for a while that that show was kind of in trouble and kind of abandoned by Marvel. Boy, I don't know. I'm trying to keep Flash skinny, but I want him to be muscular, so that's what I'm working on right now. I'll fix some of this up in inking, I think. So I'm not 100% sure I like how this is going yet. What do I think of Jim Lee's art, says Tom Tom. Jim Lee's great. I certainly was way more into it as a young teenager. That was, when I discovered him, and it was just the right time. I was into X-Men. I started with Mark Silvestri, and then it became Jim Lee. You guys like the Flash TV show? I kind of like it. Um, Last season wasn't its best. Got a little too maudlin and dark. Needs to focus on. I think the Flash works better when he's a little bit lighter, like Spider-Man. But I'm not saying you can't do dark stuff, but I prefer when it's a little lighter in tone. I mean, it's a guy that runs fast. You can only take that so seriously. Did you ever play the Arkham games? If so, which one is your favorite? Yeah, I played all the Arkham games, actually. The Arkham games are great. Which is my favorite? In terms of like sort of story and stuff, probably the first one. And then that's too much definition on his butt, even if that's accurate. So the story was the first, but in terms of gameplay, I mean the latest one that they had, what was that? I want to say Arkham Knight. I could be wrong on that, but I think Arkham Knight was the most recent, and that had the best overall gameplay probably. Those are good games, very fun. I saw the Inhumans. It was so mediocre. Too many what? Cliches, and Karnak sucked. Uh, yeah, that's too bad. I think that Ken Lung is actually a pretty good actor. I think he could have done justice to Karnak if the show knew how to portray him a little better. So that was kind of unfortunate. They got a really good actor, and then they kind of squandered that opportunity. It's very unclear I think on the show. Like he seems to absolutely have powers, and yet he's like, oh, I didn't go through Terrigenesis. It's like, what are you talking about, dude? Looks like you did. So they didn't do a good job making that clear, I think, to people who maybe didn't read the comics. I don't know how they would make sense of that. What else? Noel says that he likes the Flash. Good. I like that one. It's a good cast, and they're not afraid to go too comic booky. You know what was funny? That show Legends of Tomorrow, the first season, not very good. Just my opinion, but it had moments here and there that it was cool to see certain heroes and villains, but overall the show like really didn't do a good job, in my opinion, with the big threat, Vandal Savage. I thought he was kind of a dud. But season two, all of a sudden they just went for it. They just embraced the comic bookiness of everything. I like season two of Legends of Tomorrow. I thought that thing was a blast. I never would have expected it. It just surprises me. What else? What does your weekly pull list usually look like? I don't have a weekly pull list anymore, Noel. I haven't pulled weekly comics in quite a while. I will go to comic book stores pretty regularly, but I don't have a pull list. Instead, I wait to hear what's good from both critics and friends and other fans, and I'll catch up a lot of times in trade paperbacks. I don't know. I think everybody just sort of gets to a point where they just don't feel like reading the monthly superhero stuff all the time. But that's not to say that it is bad. I just got to a point where I couldn't. I just wasn't as invested. I don't. I'm not totally in love with any of the creative teams right now. So yeah, I had a lot of comics like 4 years ago. So 4 to 5 years ago, I stopped getting comics weekly. I still go to comic book stores regularly and will get comics, but I don't get them weekly. Um, 4 years ago, I moved across the country from DC to Seattle, and I had about 30 long boxes of comics, and it just didn't make financial sense to add them to what I was shipping. So I sold them all. I kept like about maybe one and a half long boxes worth of stuff that was especially valuable, like some of my just older issues or things that were like more like stuff that was sentimental to me, like issues of The Tick by Ben Edlund was one. What else did I keep? I didn't keep a lot. Stuff that I've worked on, like Walking Dead and Invincible, I kept those runs. That's about it. Hey Godzilla, I was just talking about you. People were asking about what comic book channels I enjoy. I don't watch many that do reviews like I do because I don't want to get influenced, but yours is a channel that I very, very much enjoy. So hopefully you get 2 or 3 new people there. I think I've missed a couple chat things. Let me see. I probably did. What did I think of the anti-monitor Death God Flash from Darkside War? That sounds like it must be something in the current DC Comics, Matt Faust. It's an interesting question, but if I haven't read that, so I don't have an opinion on it. You tell me, is it something that I should be reading? Because if so, I have not. But I'm always looking for recommendations. Blah, blah, blah. That's a nice Nightwing tushy. Yeah. I gotta revise this a little. Actually, it's coming in too much there. Do you know this Lockjaw born a dog, or did he become a dog after Pterogenesis? Oh, I hate that. That's just one writer said that Lockjaw was actually an inhuman and not like some sort of a dog. Come on. I mean, that's just too depressing to imagine that that thing was a human being that underwent Pterogenesis and became a dog. No. I don't know if the show explicitly gets into it, but for me, Lockjaw will always be an actual dog. Have you read? So, Chris, what are your favorite non superhero comics? That I love as a question. Um, I really enjoy crime comics and um, nonfiction comics, so like autobiographies and um, historical comics. So some of the stuff that I've read lately that I really love is anything by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. I love their crime comics. They've got what is it? Something like Kill or Be Killed, I think is the title of their current ongoing. I really enjoy that. I enjoy anything that team does. That's sort of a crime comic with a potential supernatural thing, or maybe the main character is an unreliable narrator and he's crazy. I what else? I read March a few months ago about the civil rights movement in the '60s. I really enjoyed that, so that's pretty good. Have I read Deadpool Bad Blood? I have not. You know who probably has is Godzilla because I want to say that we're actually probably pretty even on what we know about Spider-Man, but that guy knows his Deadpool, so you should really be asking him. I don't know if it's good or not. For me, Legend sucks from start to finish. The only redeemable aspect is Mick. I adore Mick. Every one-liner perfectly delivered. Who's Mick? Who's Mick? I'm trying to think here, folks. Help me out. Who in Marvel Comics is Mick? It's not coming to me. Do you like Animal Man? I do like Animal Man. Um, when the New 52 started, my friend Travel Foreman was the illustrator on it, and I thought he did an amazing job. So right when New 52 started, that was a version of Animal Man that I really liked. I also, of course, enjoyed it was Grant Morrison, right? Yeah, Grant Morrison's run. That was pretty trippy, cool stuff. Big fan. You worked on Walking Dead and Invincible? Yes, sort of. Anyway, I don't get paid for it. I'm one of the proofreaders. Robert Kirkman and I met a long time ago on a website called Pencil Jack. Actually, wait, no. Now that I think of it, we met even before that on a website by Wizard. You know, the Wizard used to be a comics magazine, and they started up a really crappy website, but they had message boards, and it was just the right place and the right time, and a lot of professionals were congregating there. People that were about to become professionals. Robert was one of them. I met him in Chicago shortly after that, and I don't know. We got along, so every month I'm one of the people that has to proofread Walking Dead and Invincible. So I never really used that to get like a pro badge or anything at a convention, but it is something that I do. Thoughts on All Star Superman from Barris? Oh my God, All Star Superman's fantastic. I think that comic book was just amazing. It stands in and of itself. It's strong, so strong. I think that's I mean, it's a throwback in a lot of ways to the Silver Age version of Superman, but it gets it, man. It gets what Superman's all about, and it tells a great story that builds over 12 issues. It's got sort of a beginning, a middle, and an end. I really enjoy that, especially in superhero comics, which sometimes can just sort of feel like they go on forever. All-Star Superman's great. What's that bright light on my screen? Wait, it's just a flash. All right, thank you, Dank Tank. What are your thoughts on The Mask, comic and the movie? Oh man, it's probably, now that I think of it, not that great, but The Mask came at the right time for me. I'm trying to think. Um, I, I think that there was an artist named Doug Mankey, and that was maybe some of his first work was on some of the last issues of The Mask, and I thought that his artwork at that point in time was really on point, if I'm remembering that correctly. This is going back probably to the mid to late 90s, so it's a little ways back now. And at the time, I loved The Mask, but I have to admit, I have not watched that in forever. Do I read horror comics, says Charles. Um, yeah, depends on how you define it. I mean, I love the classic EC Comics horror stuff. Trying to think of like what's published today that counts as horror. I don't really read anything by like Avatar Press or stuff like that, if that's what you're talking about. But yeah, I like horror. I mean, if Hellboy counts as horror, and I think that some of its stories uh, would count there. I love Hellboy, one of my favorites. So yeah, I definitely read horror, man. My dad has so many posters from Wizard magazine. Oh my God. Xavier, you're making me feel old, dude. Your dad has posters from Wizard magazine? I give him props if he brought you into comics. That's cool. Wizard magazine, my dad. Oh my God. That's cool. Okay. I've never been a very good inker. I will admit that right now, but I like trying, okay? So bear with me. I know I may be screwing things up. My dad. I missed something by you, comic book guy. I hear sung by Queen. Oh, Flash! Savior of the universe. I love Queen. Love Queen. I think that they were a fantastic band. I miss Freddie Mercury. He was his voice was something else, man. And yet they weren't afraid to go cheesy. You know, the stuff that they did for like Highlander and the Flash Gordon movie. There's not too many huge rock bands that'll jump right into doing stuff like that. I love Queen. What did you think about The Boys by Garth Ennis? You know, that's a good question, Julio. The Boys. I like Garth Ennis. I liked Preacher when I read it in the 90s. I go back, and a lot of Garth Ennis feels a little more mean-spirited than I realized at the time. And I think The Boys counts as a little bit mean-spirited. The idea behind it is really cool, but if you really want to see an unfiltered version of that idea for The Boys, just condensed down to, I think, 4 issues, there was a comic book in the 1980s by a writer and artist named Rick Veitch, Veitch. It was called Brat Pack. and it deconstructed superheroes and made them seem like they were just kind of awful psychotic people in their personal lives, but it's heavy stuff. If you want to see the boys done, like, trust me, I think that Ennis had to have known about Brat Pack when he created the boys, because it's very similar idea, very similar. So that's maybe I should do a review of that sometime, because not everybody remembers that. Am I a fan of Cowboy Bebop or Lupin the Third? Ghost Dog, I have not seen Lupin the Third yet, so I need to get around to that at some point. But I'm definitely a fan of Cowboy Bebop. I think that that's a tremendous, tremendous anime. Um, Again, I think if you get to know me, you'll know that I really like a complete story. So that's part of why I enjoyed Cowboy Bebop. Just part. I think it was great animation. I think it was great voice work. I think it was a great story. And I just love that it's got a beginning, middle, and end. So, yeah, all around. Cowboy Bebop, fantastic. If people are like, oh, I'm curious about anime, but I've never really tried it or something, Cowboy Bebop is up there as a recommendation that I give to people. Oh my gosh, wow. I never knew that you were actually named after Professor Xavier. Xavier. That is really cool. That's actually really cool. I think I like your parents. I think they sound like cool people. I have to break out some different brushes here. I have here. Am I going to draw lightning? Because that would be shocking. Dank, you have all the puns at your disposal, apparently. Um, Good for you. I'm a big fan of bad puns. I um, I discovered, or was introduced by friends, I should say, to Dungeons and Dragons about 2 years ago. I'd never played it growing up. I just didn't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. I've got a character I'm actually going to play later today, and my character drops puns all the time, and it makes my friends groan, and I love it. Have I read any Italian comics that we get here in Serbia aside from trade paperbacks? Well, I'm not sure what you get in Serbia, Milos, but Italian comics that I like. There are some Italian comics that I like. Let me think for a minute. It's been a little while since I've thought about them. What was the movie Cemetery Man based on? Delamore Della Morte, I want to say. Um, Let me look that up actually, because that's a good comic book that I liked. A horror comic as well. If people are curious about horror comics, it's October, so horror comics are appropriate to talk about. What was this comic? I'm just looking something up on Wikipedia. By the way, Cemetery Man is a good movie. It's a good sort of weird zombie movie. Oh, Dylan Dog. Dylan Dog is a good book, and Cemetery Man was like a sort of based on that, like loosely. But Dylan Dog is a really good Italian comic. I don't know too many others, so my knowledge there is I guess lacking. But I do try to read foreign comics. So let's see. Hey, that's the purpose of Inktober, to get better at inking. Yeah, well, I'm trying, Jesse. You're my new favorite channel. I love your vids, and I always like to guess the tropes you're looking for before you list them. Have I done Cerebus episode? I'd enjoy that. TARDIS Rider. I have had Cerebus as a potential on my sort of calendar that I create, and I keep bumping it. I keep bumping it because I'm like, this is so serious if I talk about Cerebus. and I want to talk about something fun, so I keep bumping it. But at some point, I'm going to talk about Cerebus. It is on my calendar. Thanks for doing this. You are going to give Todd Knock a run for his money. No, no, Artsy Ian, I am not. I am not in that caliber. But I do like drawing, and this is a challenge to get better this month, right? Give myself a personal challenge. We have to do that from time to time. Try to step outside of our comfort zones, right? Are you still thinking of quitting the channel? I saw your tweet and got worried. All right, Boris, I did not mean to worry people with that tweet. I was having a moment of depression when I said that. I was frustrated that a video I was quite proud of wasn't necessarily getting the views that I thought it would. But you know what? That's on me. You shouldn't go into this stuff with expectations. So I was momentarily disappointed that a particular video wasn't getting views. Right now, I do not plan to end the channel. I do want it to grow. I want it to grow because I want to do some bigger things, and I can only really justify that if I've got a bigger audience. But for right now, I am having a lot of fun reviewing comics every week. I get some amazing comments, recommendations, stuff like that from you guys out there. So yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. Sorry that I shouldn't have posted that. That's should have just bottled that up. You just bottle those emotions up, never address them, and nothing can go wrong there, right? What else? Am I a fan of Quentin Tarantino? Absolutely. Absolutely. As the person, maybe not. But what he creates? Absolutely. Inglorious Bastards is fantastic. I remember discovering in college, what was his first movie? Well, technically, before he even directed a movie, I was a huge fan of True Romance, which he wrote and feels very much like a Quentin Tarantino movie. That also feels like a Tony Scott movie, but there's a lot of Quentin Tarantino in True Romance. And then Reservoir Dogs, I saw when it first came out, and I was like, oh, this director seems like one to watch. He seems like he's got a unique viewpoint on things. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Quentin Tarantino, I have to admit. Or his movies, I should say. Hateful Eight was really good. Felt kind of like a play, didn't it? Would you mind taking a look at some pages for a comic I'm working on that I want to pitch to Image? Yeah, I can do that, Godzilla. I'd be happy to. I don't know how much insight I can give you, but I've seen many pitches that have gone to Image and been accepted or been rejected. Currently, I have one that they're still thinking about. I was really hoping I'd have an answer, yes or no, before I went to New York Comic Con. But we'll see. It's not a no. They've been looking at it for over a month now, and I'm still in touch. They're thinking about it. I won't go into any more detail. If they say no, maybe I'll tell you what it is, or if they say yes, I'll tell you what it is. But I need to wait and hear back. I can take a look at your pitch if there's anything you think I could add of value. I'd be happy to. Thank you for all these questions, guys. It's helps me. I'm getting a little lost in detail here. Just laughing at some of Tank. Tank, I don't know who you are, but you're cracking me up, man. So thank you. Julio says, yup, Ennis got really cynical in The Boys. Thanks for the recommendation. And he also recommends to Milo, she says, Italian comics Ran Xerox by Liberatore. I don't know that one. I probably mispronounced it too, but thank you for passing on a recommendation. Slowly catching up on all these comments. Almost there. Let's see. What are your opinions on Joss Whedon's X-Men? I actually think that Joss Whedon's run on Astonishing X-Men is really solid stuff. In general, I'm not the biggest fan of cosmic stories for X-Men, but certainly they can be done well, and I thought that Joss Whedon's was pretty good. I think his biggest problem was really just having to follow Grant Morrison's incredible run on New X-Men, because I consider that like just a seminal run. I consider that like just a near flawless run on X-Men. Near flawless. It's quite good. One of my favorites personally. So I think that Joss Whedon did a good job. He I think he elevated Kitty Pryde to a leader, which is sort of how she's portrayed now, and I think that that's the natural progression of Kitty Pryde. We got introduced to her as a viewpoint character. She was, the youngest X-Man and kind of, finding a way to fit in and stuff, and now she's grown into a leader. And I think that it's important that characters have those growth stages. So I give Joss credit for pushing Kitty Pryde's character forward there. That was probably his best contribution. I mean, he brought Colossus back, but whatever. Anybody can bring a dead character back these days. Milo says, yeah, Dylan Dog is probably most popular. Zagor is probably my fave. Cordo Maltese is also a really good one. And some others we get are Mr. No, Lucky Luke, Martin Mysteer, and Alan Ford. That sounds like a bunch of sort of detective comics, but I am guessing there. I don't know all of those comics. It sounds interesting, though. I kind of fucked up on this hand. I don't really like it. But I also don't really know how to fix it. That's what keeps me from being a pro. I think hands and faces are the most expressive thing you can do in comics, so you got to be really good at hands and faces. I feel like I can usually handle faces okay, but hands, hands is something I'm still working on. What was the name of the comic you compared to The Boys? Again, that's Brat Pack by Rick Veitch. Brat Pack by Rick Veitch. He was a guy who also was an artist on Alan Moore's run on Swamp Thing. Talented guy. Not sure what he's doing these days. Hope he's still working. He's probably somebody that I would love to cover because I like to try to cover people that I think are really talented and maybe just we haven't heard from them as much in a while. I feel like, or somehow they're just not getting the attention they deserve. It's some of my goal anyway. Yeah. Have I seen the Bill Finger documentary? No, I have not, and I really want to see the Bill Finger documentary. I, for years, was invested in getting Bill Finger the credit he deserves as co-creator of Batman and creator of so many key elements within the Batman mythology. Bob Kane, people love to shit on Stan Lee for hogging credit or something. He's not even in the same universe as Bob Kane. Bob Kane took credit for everything Batman, and he just did not create everything Batman. Uh, Guys like Bill Finger contributed at least as much. I think there's guys like Jerry Springer that contributed a lot. So, boy, Bob Kane gets under my skin. Will I do a comic tropes version of what? I'm sorry, I'm falling behind here on. Will I do a comic tropes on Jim Lee, or as it is October, the terrible Erica Henderson? Oh, that's so disappointing that you don't care for her art, Dank. I have to admit I like Erica Henderson's artwork. I really do. You have to understand, I guess, what she's going for, but I find it very expressive and engaging. Well, we all have different tastes. But yeah, I think that she's great. Sometimes I wonder if my tastes are different, and it has something to do with age. Like, am I just too old? But because I feel like a lot of young people don't seem to like Erica's artwork. At least that's what I see on Twitter. But I don't know. I think she's great. Hmm. Okay, let's see. I'm in the middle of writing a paper and have to go. Just wanted to let you know I've been a fan since the Liefeld episode. Thank you, Artsy Ian. Don't worry about messing up on the hands and feet. Rob Liefeld doesn't even draw that well. If I was comparing myself to Rob Liefeld, I'd never advance. Godzilla says, I liked Todd McFarlane's technique for practicing hands. He just draws them over and over in every conceivable angle and position until it becomes mechanical. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I will try to do more of that throughout this month, I guess, because I would like to get better at that. We'll see. I'd like to be a better artist than I am. Maybe someday. Maybe someday, Sonny. So, this is a lot of fun to be able to talk to everyone. I have to admit that usually when I sit down to do something like drawing, I'll have a podcast going. I like listening to spoken word stuff. So it feels a little weird not to have other people's voices in here. That's what I'm used to. What are your thoughts on the upcoming Old Man Hawkeye? I only just heard about that today. I guess that could be fine. I find that I think that the world of Old Man Logan is supremely depressing. But we've got a lot of bleak stories these days, don't we? Seems to be what people kind of respond to for some reason. Could be based something on how the world is going. Maybe we like to control our fear to some degree by seeing depressing stories that we can still sort of control. I don't know. I'm just guessing at that, but I do wonder about things like that. Why do we like such dark stories? Like there's so many post-apocalyptic stories, even in young adult fiction. Even because you see the movies and stuff that are like Hunger Games or Maze Runner or something. You're like, wow, that's actually kind of bleak stuff, isn't it, for young people? And then of course there's Walking Dead for ostensibly adults, but it's bleak stuff. I wonder why we respond to that so much right now. I don't have an easy answer there. Just something I think about. What do you guys think I'm missing here? What am I not doing right? Swift. There should be a sequel to the Liefeld episode, says Julio. That's definitely something I've considered in general, doing sort of sequels in a sense to not just Liefeld, but almost anybody that I've covered, because the premise of my show is we're looking for techniques, cliches, tropes, hallmarks, the recurring elements of a certain creator or sometimes a certain character. And the only way to really look into that is to read more than one story. So I will definitely at some point, be looking at other um, comics by some of the people that I've already covered. At some point, I will. It's really just that there's so many stories and creators that I want to discuss that I haven't gotten to it yet. But good thinking. What are some of your favorite comics? Says Baris Coxall. Let me think for a minute. Seemingly easy question, and yet, like, I feel like some of the things that come to mind are things that have been my favorites, but I'd have to rethink, like, whether they still are. Like, is Watchmen still one of my favorite comics? Probably. Although I think that V for Vendetta or From Hell might speak to me a little bit more these days if I'm looking at Alan Moore stuff. Um, what else? I mean, my favorite stuff as a kid was stuff like the Chris Claremont, Jim Lee comics, and pretty much anything Spider-Man. Any of Spider-Man's stuff spoke to me, and still sort of does. What are some really good ones? Oh, anything by Brubaker and Phillips, and that starts with Sleeper. Is that right? 2 volumes of Sleeper by Image Comics. That one stands out as a highlight for me. Let me keep thinking. I've got like a bunch more of these that I'll be doing every day this month. So let me keep thinking about like what some of my favorites are, and I'll try to keep talking about it. Holy Terror. I've read a bunch of Holy Terror. Not a fan. That is, in my opinion, one of the absolute worst comics out there, and just depresses me because I was definitely a huge fan of Frank Miller growing up. I thought that his run on Daredevil and his Born Again story with David Mazzucchelli was incredible. I loved Year One, Batman Year One. I loved that. Dark Knight Returns, it's good, but not necessarily one of my favorites. But Year One was. And Holy Terror is just like, this is the same guy? I don't know. I don't know. Not for me. This wasn't intentional, but I sort of look at this mask, this headpiece, and the way I sort of constructed it reminds me of the TV version. I wonder if, like, I was sort of unintentionally influenced by that. I don't know. That's how it looks to me. May not to you. I'm gonna clean up some of my initial marks. Let's see. Are you gonna do a Brubaker Phillips comic tropes? Absolutely. Absolutely. What is my favorite Stephen King film? Well, it's not Stephen King's favorite of his, but The Shining. I think The Shining is overall uh, the best adaptation of King's work. But I'm a huge fan of Stanley Kubrick, so my bias filters in there. But I think that The Shining is the most disturbing, and so yeah, that's my favorite. I'm trying to think of some others that are up there. I really did like the new version of It. I thought that that was very well executed. Not the scariest per se, but I liked it. I liked it a lot. Um, Definitely Shawshank Redemption is strong. That's way up there. Carrie is good. What else is good? Dead Zone. I love David Cronenberg movies, and I love Christopher Walken movies. Dead Zone's really good. Dead Zone's, yeah, that's a really good one. Are you gonna? Did I answer that? Yeah, I'll definitely do a Brubaker Phillips comic tropes at some point. I just want to be able to sort of give it the respect that uh, I feel for it. I want to do a good job on that one. So I got to plan ahead on it. Opinion on Crossed. It's not something I recommend to people. I have not read Crossed, but my fiance did buy an issue of it when we were in New York last year. I don't know if she read it. I'd have to ask her. She thought that the cover looked cool, but I didn't read it myself. So you tell me, Xavier, is Crossed worth reading? Does it compare to anything else that's out there that's any good? What about the Grant Morrison Quitely duo? Yeah, we three, Flex Mentallo, All Star Superman, definitely. Grant Morrison is definitely somebody that I want to talk about, but it's like, do I talk about something older, like, Doom Patrol? Or do I talk about his team ups with Frank Quitely? Because you know what? I don't know that I've really talked about partnerships before, so maybe Quitely and Morrison, or Brubaker and Phillips are somebody that I could sort of talk about in terms of partnership. Stronger together than apart. Hey, comic book guy. Godzilla Mendoza says Crossed is worth reading if you want to see Garth Ennis with absolutely no filter. It gets as dark and nihilistic and depraved as a story can possibly go. Jeez, I need to think about that then. I don't know if I want to read him with no filter. What did I let Chrissy buy? I did not know that it was, because I don't think that Ennis has much of a filter to begin with. More than Mark Millar, though, huh? I just feel that both of those guys can go kind of mean spirited. Um, and by that I sort of mean unfair. Like, I read a bunch of Ennis's Punisher, and I liked it when he'd go up against, weird crime bosses and stuff. But whenever he'd like bump into somebody like Spider-Man and Wolverine, and he'd just be able to take them out and make them look like absolute idiots, I was sort of like, well, what's the point there? It's like, okay, I get it. You don't personally like superheroes, but why mock them in that way? That's just me. Comic book guy says to do my best Alan Moore impression, and you know what? I can't think of exactly how he he talks. He's British. Hmm. I'm a wizard. Oh, you're a wizard, Harry. Oh, I'm Alan Moore. Oh, you're a wizard. Come on with me. We're gonna go to Hogwarts. I'm Alan Moore. I write comic books. I raise dragons. I'm Alan Moore. There. What do you think of my amazing impression? um, who's my favorite Spider-Man actor and Batman actor? That's a good question. Let me think for a sec. You know, I guess Tom Holland might be the best Spider-Man actor, but I think he had the benefit of having the best overall story. Well, I'm really split because the first two Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies are excellent. And I think Tobey Maguire did a really good job of sort of capturing a certain part of Peter Parker, actually several parts. He just didn't necessarily get to do the fun wisecracking stuff, and Tom Holland did. I'd like to see a little bit more of Tom Holland before I make that call. Right now, you know what? I'll give the slight edge to Tobey Maguire. I think he did an excellent job. For Batman, I'm going to go with Christian Bale. I'm a big fan of the Nolan movies. Um, but that I like all the Batman movies on some level. On some level, not. You're a wizard. Oh, I'm a wizard. I'm Alan Moore. I write comic books. I created Promethea. And I take kids up to Hogwarts. Have I ever read any Stephen King comics? Wait 2 weeks. I'm gonna cover Stephen King comics this month. There's your exclusive, folks. For tuning in today, you learned something that's coming up in the future. I'm not going to say any more than that. We'll wait for the review, okay? But I guess the answer to your question is yes, I have. I have. Oh, oh, look at me. I've got a bit of an Irish brogue. I guess I'm getting goofy. What time is it? Ever read any of the Aliens and Predators comics? There's like a billion of them. Xavier, yes, I reviewed Batman and Superman versus Alien and Predator. It sucked. But there's a bunch of other stuff that's actually good. The very first Alien versus Predator comics by Dark Horse, that was a really cool mashup. That was pretty innovative and yeah, it was a good idea, and I think it was pretty well done. And I think that some of the others, like Alien versus Superman, and some of the Predator versus Batman stuff. I think that some of that's quite good, actually. But the Superman and Batman versus Alien and Predator, whew, that was quite a stinker. Quite bad. Quite shitty. Thank you, comic book guy. Ghost Dog says, "Kingdom Come?" Question mark. I agree. Soon we'll all be in God's good graces. No. Kingdom Come. It's been a long time since I read that one. Let me think. It was okay. I'm probably not. I like Alex Ross paintings and I like Mark Waid stories. But am I a huge fan of either of them? Probably not, personally. I don't dislike anything about them. So I would say Kingdom Come was interesting. It was good. A pleasant way to pass the time. Yeah, that's about all I've got to say about it. It was good. I'd say Aliens Book 1 is one of the best I've ever read. I consider it the canon sequel to Aliens over those other movies. That's fair. That's fair, Xavier. I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know that any of the other Alien movies really did anything great after the first two. I like them all to a degree because I like sort of horror and monster stuff, but none of them quite. None of them come close to the first two. That's just a fact. None of them come close to Alien or Aliens. Even Ridley Scott coming back and doing Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I mean, it's a little interesting, but it's nowhere close to as good as his original movie. Sorry, not sorry. So I think I'm kind of close to wrapping this one up, guys. I've sort of been dawdling the last while, but it's because I'm having fun talking to all of you. Yeah, I think I'm about to call it, but I'll be on tomorrow night. I'll be on tomorrow night at 6 Pacific time. That's because that'll be like when I get home from work. I'm not going to be able to get on any earlier than that. So that's just how it is. We can answer more questions then. I had fun with this. I did. Is this amazing? No. Is it okay? Yeah, it's okay. Maybe on the 30th or 31st, whatever. The 31 days in October? Yeah, right? Yeah. Anyway, last day of October, maybe the art will be better than this. And I'll have to look at what the next Inktober suggestion is for what's coming up. What do I have? How did I choose my username, says the ghost dog. I've always been amused at the name of skunk ape, which down south is what they frequently call their version of the Yeti, although they think of it more as a swamp monster. I lived in New Orleans for a while, and I would hear that, and that cracked me up. So that's where that comes from. Are there any huge revered comics you just couldn't get into? Oh, probably. Let me think. That's a good question. That's a really good question. What are some big revered comics other than Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen? Because I do like Watchmen quite a bit, and Dark Knight Returns is okay. But I'm trying to think, like, okay, Mouse? Okay, Mouse? No, I like Mouse. What else is revered? I need some help, like, thinking of what comics are revered, and I can tell you whether I like them or not. But off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I should cover the comic version of Dune. That's an interesting idea, comic book guy, because I actually happen to live in the town where Frank Herbert was born, so they love Dune here. They love Dune. So I hear about it plenty. Maybe that is a good idea sometime. I could get into that. I could get into that. Whoa, no can do. Well, I fucked up here and there. Excuse my language, darn it. I screwed up. I don't like what I did with the eyes at the end there, but what can you do? Have I read any cross-gen comics? Not really, Carl. Just sort of didn't get into those at the time that they were hitting big. Yeah, no. Cross-gen is something I don't know a lot about, I have to admit. That doesn't mean I wouldn't cover it sometime. A lot of stuff that I do on this channel, I just take some time researching before I ever sit down and do the review. So could still happen. It was a big deal when it happened. It was an interesting idea. It was an interesting idea, like just paying people a salary, and had they came in and worked regular business hours. Um, I thought it might have worked a little better than it did, but whatever. Hearing you cuss honestly makes me feel less self-conscious that I do it so much. I'm trying not to cuss too much, but I just do. So I can only cover it up so much. It's easier when I produce a video, I edit it. I personally don't have a problem with swearing. I don't think it's a big deal, but I also don't think that it always adds something to your point when you're making a review or something. I don't always think. I feel like if you're using a swear, that's sort of like using a weasel word like or You need to like think, well, what's the point I'm trying to make, and how can I make that more clearly? That's how I approach that for reviews. Thank you, Nazarescu, that he likes what I do. What are my favorite comics run from the early days of comics, 30s through 60s? If we're talking through the 60s, then it'll probably be the Fantastic Four run by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Yeah, that would be my favorite run from back then. Do I like Pokemon comics? Sorry, comic book guy, I've never read a Pokemon comic. That doesn't mean I'm against the idea of trying it. I like some of the Pokemon games. I'm not really aware of the comics. All right, guys. So this is what I created for day 1 of October, Inktober, and I really appreciate you watching me draw. It's been fun. I'm going to take off now, but I appreciate it. See you tomorrow.